Hey everyone, Tony D with another, let's call this one Screenwriting Tips. And this is my thinking for the next wave of entertainment. Now, initially, or this last wave, I should say, was very woke, and we're starting to see peak wokeness in Hollywood. They haven't stopped, but the loss of money is eventually going to catch up to them. Of course, the big news stories this week: white actors refusing to voice any non-white characters in their cartoons and apologizing and self-flagellating themselves all over the entertainment news media. Oh, I'm so sorry, I voiced a Vietnamese woman, and I'm not Vietnamese. Oh, the horror of BoJack Horseman. I think these apologies are pathetic. I kind of understand why actors do them because, again, they're very emotional people, and I don't know. It's their careers. It would be a tough call for me if I was in their position. It's a lot of money to give up just to say, "Hey, come on." Maybe the best thing to do would just to be quietly retire if you can. I think Mike Henry's announcement that he's not doing Cleveland anymore is just lame. I think it's just the lamest thing ever. A show like Family Guy that was once pretty edgy and fun now has to bow down to this woke mob. It seems very counterintuitive to the nature of Family Guy. And, why even watch the show, in my view? I was out after that two-part Trump episode. I just felt it was just pathetic. If you look at the early episode, I think it's the first season, where Peter becomes the lobbyist for the cigarette company and goes to Washington. It's a really funny, clever episode where Peter is taking guys out and smoking them up and getting them to vote on various bills. And he's like suddenly great at his job, and it's a really good, funny take on Washington, and it was smart, and it didn't really pull any punches, Democrats or Republicans. Then you look at the Trump one, and it's just sad. The animation's better, but to me, it's just kind of sad that they had to go Trump. They just go at Trump so hard. There's no nuance in it whatsoever. Not that Family Guy is necessarily all that nuanced, but they used to do bits that were clever. And the one that just really doesn't age well is that ending, spoilers, with Justin Trudeau. It's so cringy now to think about. But that's where we are in the world of Hollywood. But the next trend, I think, is going to be anti-woke stuff. And what I mean by anti-woke stuff, some of it they just won't address any of these issues. They'll just ignore them, right? So like a TV show like The Mandalorian, I think, is a good example. Because since it's mostly, fantasy, sci-fi, they don't have to address all these issues. Although there's still a push, it seems, in the studio to keep relentlessly addressing them. But they can at least do cool kind of Western guy and not have to worry too much since everybody's like an alien or a robot or whatever. But I think that push is eventually, all the woke stuff is just going to fail after a while. People will just not watch it. It's just too preachy. It's just too lame. And so the stuff they're going to gravitate towards is eventually someone's going to make something, closer to like my book Wokeness, right? Something that really sends up these PC idiots and really, hoists them by their own petard, as it were. And, just really goes at them hammer and tongs and just skewers them all, one after another. I think that's where we're headed. Now, it requires that somebody sort of blaze the trail, and at the same time, you have to somehow be successful at it. I mean, that's what we're attempting to do with Wokeness and the sequel book coming soon. But it's tough. It's very tough. So something's just got to hit. And once it hits, then everybody in Hollywood wants to emulate that. And I think it will be anti-woke, but the actual individual hit, well, that's tough to point out because, it's a lot of it's just the right time and place. High Noon was meant to be, it wasn't meant to be a sort of man against the machine kind of movie. It was really meant to be more of an allegory for the left, but it ended up getting interpreted different. So maybe it'll be something like that. It'll be a movie that was supposed to be super woke, but it actually gets interpreted the wrong way. I mean, it's very possible that could happen because there's just, so much hubris in Hollywood. They could go so woke that they push off a cliff and they end up not being woke, right? It's sort of, again, the horseshoe effect. Only instead of being political, it's a political extreme, it's a creative extreme. But I kind of think what will probably happen is someone will do something that is kind of relentlessly anti-woke, but it'll be all done as a metaphor. Maybe there'll be cartoon characters, maybe there'll be aliens, maybe there'll be fantasy characters, but the subtlety, to be like when Star Trek used to do, the old Star Trek used to do stuff about the Cold War, and they kind of couldn't do that in a TV show then, but you could do it in Star Trek since everybody was an alien or whatever. And because of that, they were able to do more, and they had better writers too. That's going to be the thing, and it'll probably erupt on one of these channels like Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and it'll just be so insanely popular that it'll make a lot of money. They won't want to get rid of it, and it also requires that the creative team really stick to their guns. We had this great run with Game of Thrones for a while, and then it just kind of died, in my opinion. I think a lot of that's on the team. The team dropped the ball and never picked it up. And I think that's happened with a lot of different things. So we got to, as screenwriters, we got to try to stay ahead of the trends. So that's my call. I've been calling it for a while, but I think eventually this wheel's going to turn and we're going to have some kind of anti-wokeness. I think maybe it'll probably be a comedy, because people are desperate for more comedy, like real comedy, something that's like really funny, and it's just unabashed, not PC, right? F the PC guys. That's what I say. So hopefully I could be a part of that if I'm predicting it, but you never know. I could be too ahead of the curve. It could be something else. Who knows? But I'm calling it anti-woke stuff. Maybe it's a comedy. That's going to turn the tide culturally. Probably won't happen until after Trump's elected, but re-elected, I should say. But we'll see. We'll see. Keep an eye out, screenwriters, and keep writing.